gases, the periodic table, noble gases stable, halogens and alkali react aggressively.
Good morning, Lake Nona. My name is Gabby Irons. You are watching a brand new episode of Science Spotlight. Now, you might remember last year when we attempted to launch rockets and things didn't really go as planned.
Oh my God!
So, we decided to dial it down a notch and demonstrate homemade rocket engines with pasta. We encourage you to try this at home with an adult and safety gear, of course. The materials you need to make this rocket engine are a glass jar with a lid, hydrogen peroxide, dry yeast, matches or lighter, and pasta. First, we have to punch a hole in the lid. Next, we fill most of the jar with hydrogen peroxide. Then we add 3 or 4 pinches of dry yeast and stir it in. As you can see, the reaction begins immediately. Finally, put the lid on and place the pasta over the hole. When we light the top of the pasta, we ignite the source of fuel for this rocket, which is the oxygen produced by the chemical reaction going on inside the jar. Hydrogen peroxide is composed of 2 hydrogen atoms and 2 oxygen atoms. It is relatively unstable, so over time it breaks down into water and oxygen. In this demonstration, yeast is added to the hydrogen peroxide to speed up its decomposition process, which is normally slow. Yeast contains an enzyme called catalase, which is classified as a catalyst since it speeds up the rate of decomposition without actually being consumed in the reaction. And now we're back with this week's quick quiz. Our question is, where did pasta originate? Is it A, Spain, B, India, C, Italy, or D, China? And the answer is D, China. While we do think of pasta as a culturally Italian food, it is likely the descendant of ancient Asian noodles. A common belief about pasta is that it was brought to Italy from China by Marco Polo during the 13th century. Now, one of the most interesting things about rocket engines is that they are simple enough to build at home, but at the same time so complicated that only 3 countries have ever actually put people into orbit. Most engines drive rotational energy, such as those that cause wheels in cars to spin. Rocket engines, however, are fundamentally different. Rocket engines are reaction engines. The basic principle driving a rocket engine is Newton's third law of motion, which says, to every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. A rocket engine is throwing mass in one direction and benefiting from the reaction that occurs in the other direction. The mass comes from the weight of the fuel that the rocket engine burns. The burning process accelerates the mass of the fuel so that it comes out of the rocket nozzle at a high speed. Because we are not producing a great amount of mass, though, our little pasta rocket does not produce enough force to overcome the upward force that the table exerts on the rocket. Thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Science Spotlight. We love you. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget, stay nerdy, Lake Nona.